Hi, this is Tim Sanders, founder of the Omnia radiation balancer. Pretty soon there will be 5G masks going up all around us, and we want to make sure that you're giving yourself the best protection on the market. Our solution is unique. We use a new source of energy from the fifth dimension to balance radiation fields on any device, making it safe to use. Our results show that this structures water, it balances the blood, and it keeps your body super strong. And yes, it works on 5G. The energy in the patch never runs out, so count up all the radiating devices in your life, stick one on each, and you're done. Click on the link below and you'll soon be bringing balance and strength back to your body. Thank you.
Hey guys, you're listening to Journey to Truth podcast. Tonight we are excited to be joined by Cyrus A. Parsa. Many of you guys probably have seen him making rounds all over social media on a lot of shows, Red Pill 78, 90 Degree Turns, with Trisha, which was really awesome. I highly recommend you guys check those out. Cyrus is author of Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity, and many other books, along with founder of AI Organization, the AI organization. I believe he formed that. You created that in 2018. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll be diving into that a little bit. But I do want to start off by, first of all, saying welcome to the show. We're really glad to have you. And your video from the other, I guess, just 2 days ago, President Under Siege, talking about how Trump's just under fire right now, under attack from the CCP, and I would love for you to go a little bit more in depth on that and what's taking place there, and we can kind of get into the CCP's involvement with this whole entire pandemic.
Sure. I did that video for a few reasons. One is the Chinese Communist Party has spent quite a bit of money, manpower, through espionage and social engineering and soft power to not only influence elections, but influence our big tech companies, our politicians, our corporate leaders, and even the masses through using proxy wars. What are these proxy wars? So I was one of the first ones to release that behind the support of some BLM was actually Chinese Communist Party using social engineering and even different methods. And what they have been doing is weaponizing any media or corporate or contracts they have with any agency to counteract or mobilize people on the left, even conservatives, without their knowledge against President Trump, his administration, the Constitution, or even certain goals that the administration has. And this happens not just to liberals, but to conservatives as well. So they want unrest. They want a civil war because what they want to do is become the empire, a dark force that controls everything. I put out a tweet before this one. It was an extract from my interview with Dave from the X2020 report. And that wasn't also, the information was an extract from an Intel article I put out that went to President Trump, and he read it in November, which is called 18 agencies in 37 nations, mobilize artificial intelligence and intelligence agencies with psychological warfare in the shadows to take out President Trump. Yeah. So even behind the Mueller team, that's also in my book. I printed this in the initial book, AI, Trump, China, and the Weaponization of Robotics, 5G, and then I embedded into here. So that behind the witch hunts of President Trump and even his generals, even General Flynn, was the Communist Party of China, because they feared President Trump greatly, and they knew that he has friends going back 30, 40 years that are in the military. So they envisioned President Trump coming into power. So why did I put out this new tweet called President Under Siege? Well, he has been under siege throughout his entire presidency, but this is different. They want to go around the White House. There are multitude of threats to doing this. One of them is psychological warfare. that pretty much weakens the resolve of the cabinet, even President Trump, his family, his administration, and even the Secret Service and FBI, and the people around DC, and even psychologically social engineers, police officers at the subliminal level, thus creating chaos and a weakness for the administration, and leaves for potential attacks by terrorists, religious fundamentalists, or even the Chinese Communist Party, or even to meddle with the elections. So many different things. Thus, this type of protests or riots cannot be allowed. And it's a physical threat, it's an emotional threat, it's a spiritual threat from all different perspectives. You never see Obama, Biden, George Bush, and Clinton go through this. They would, if they did, they wouldn't accept it. The police will come in and back it. But I also cited that a mayor can be arrested. That could be any mayor. It could be the DC mayor, it could be whoever it is, for treason, because their job is to protect the president within the means that they have within their jurisdiction. So if they're doing things that are impeding, for instance, the National Guard that came in or the intelligence agencies, then they're actually committing crimes. Not just treason, but complicity and accessory and so many different things. So I put that tweet so the intelligence community can think about it. I also mentioned in the tweet that the Secret Service, some of them are not for Trump, they're not loyal to Trump. And a great deal of the DC police, which I noticed a year and a half ago, had the same issue. So because they're from the Obama days. I put out the tweet, it only got 28,000 views or 30,000 views so far. Maybe, I don't know, 2,000 retweets, and you guys retweeted it. So I just noticed that. And you guys pressed like. Not only did you retweet, but you pressed like. So that's not just supporting me and the organization. It's actually supporting President Trump. So we've had a lot of difficult time getting patriots to support things that we put out, and we've been militarizing our entire network has been helping the Trump administration against the Chinese Communist Party and other things in so many ways. So it's like you're not helping us, you're not helping Trump. So anyway, so thank you guys for retweeting and liking that, and thanks for that question, because it's really, really important. This is a crucial time, and they're having that 50-day siege starting on September 17th. And it's from Canada and other places. And another thing is it allows these movements to mobilize other areas. It's like a connecting pot. Once you go to the White House, you're trying to siege it, then it connects, this city will rise up, that city will rise up, everywhere will start rising up. So there has to be a line. That's why I put at the end, there's limits to appeasement, because the entire time it's been a combination of playing art of war, but also a degree of appeasement because of race tensions. Thus, this is a safety issue, not just for conservatives, but for liberals. Because if Trump gets taken out, China wins, Communist Party, and liberals fall under enslavement. So that video is only 2 minutes. It touched on so many things.
Yeah.
You guys noticed.
Well, it's not just the Communist Party that wins. It's the entire fate of the planet basically relies on Trump being elected right now. And that's really hard for a lot of people to grasp, especially if they haven't been following this stuff. But I want to talk more about this date, September 17th. I have been hearing this from multiple sources now, and I'm curious on where this date is coming from and what is actually supposed to take place, because it's all hearsay as far as I can tell, unless there's anything backing that.
It may not even happen. But the reason why I put that tweet has multiple reasons. It's also to give the Secret Service, the Trump administration, idea that you need to have a 3-mile perimeter security enhancement, because there is some vulnerabilities I saw. So it may not be this protest, it may be another protest, it may be something else. So it makes them think, and a chain of reaction starts to occur, which beefs up their security, because they say, Cyrus is saying this, and he was right on everything else, we should do this. But yes, they have a Twitter account, it's multiple different networks, not just Canada, but here, and they're starting to connect with Antifa, BLM, and liberal causes. So, and then the media is giving them some extra attention. Mm-hmm. So even if it's not going to form, we put out our analysis. It says, hey, if even this doesn't inform you, can use this type of analysis and execute a certain plan to counter not just this one, but other ones. Pre-election, pre-re-election, and during re-election and afterwards. Because I noticed that, I put out tweets before the statues got hit. Statues have vulnerabilities, send the military. I noticed it a year before when I was there. I saw the security was not very good for the statue. I saw who the security was, and they were plain clothes, act like tourists. And they're within the tourists, acting like tourists, watching tourists in the statues, but protecting the statues. But some of them weren't that good. So, and there was vulnerabilities to it. So, and this has to do with the Abraham Lincoln statue and other ones that I noticed. This was 2019, sometime in May, I think.
What are your thoughts on these fires right now occurring? Do you think these are just arson fires, or what are your theories or your thoughts on DEWs, direct energy weapons? Do you think that's being actually implemented here?
I can't comment on this because there's some rules for social media on stating certain things that they may perceive to be not true information. But I can give you a different answer. Sometimes it's arson. Sometimes it's a cause and effect. There are things you can't see in different dimensions. The human eye can only see so much, but behind everything that happens, there's something in a different dimension that instigates it. Wow. Whether it's an action by a human being or an action by an invisible entity that you cannot see. And this starts a chain reaction. But the reason behind it is actually, in a sense, as I say, there's a cause and effect or a karmic reason for it. Because society is in the age of chaos, from what I heard and what I see currently. And people are not at the ethical standards that they were back in the day. And not just the liberals, but also in the conservatives. And there's a lot of hatred. Hatred brews hatred. And chaos brews more chaos. The world needs not the love that people talk about, it needs benevolence. But benevolence doesn't mean you tolerate evil, or you accept evil. There's a line you don't cross. But our minds are very, very powerful. I don't just mean mine, yours, or his, or the people who are this. Everyone's mind is very powerful. Thus, having positive thoughts and having righteousness, if we can work on ourselves being righteous, we can change the course of history. So that's why I know you guys want to get into the Great Awakening and different things, but it's kind of leaning there. But so it's not just about conservatives; it's also about liberals.
Yeah, and I love how you said that behind everything happening, there's something that instigates it in another dimension. It's just like I believe that you've said in the past. I got this from you. Behind every person is something controlling them.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the same concept. There's a bigger picture.
Yes.
There's so much more going on than we'll ever perceive here at the 3D level. And that's what people have to remember when they're getting triggered by a lot of these events. And I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great point. I really like that. So as far as going back to Trump and the CCP and just the CCP's involvement in this entire virus and everything that's taking place, like what should people know about what's going on? And is it looking like they're on their way out, or what's actually taking place there?
The CCP will fall. They will be erased from the pages of time, as people say. But there is a time frame for that. Every person on the planet must make their stance against the Chinese Communist Party, against communism, period. Because, again, this leads to the Great Awakening, which is not just about arrests. That's a part of it. It's an important part, but it's a small part of it, very minute part of what it's actually about. But the Chinese Communist Party, their tentacles are being caught and cut and decapitated, one nation by one nation, financially, culturally, physically, and even spiritually, after seeing this and this. The main thing is their human rights violations. If everyone starts talking about those things, by the organ harvesting and the concentration camps and the rapes and tortures of the Falun Dafa meditators, the Christians, the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, and the common citizen who may just be agnostic or even atheists who just had a certain political leaning. A lot have been killed in the camps. I mean, I can talk about this topic for a very long time. I've host talks. I brought David Matus and Ewan Kilgore. Just as a brief, in 2006, they said 41,500 transplants are unaccounted for. So that could be 20,000 people. It could be 41,000. And that's just the hospitals they found, not the behind the scenes of the military complexes. Then 2016, they say 1.5 million. So from 2000 to 2016, every year, 60 to 110,000 transplants are unaccounted for. You add that number up, it's over 1.5 million transplants. So is it 500,000 people that died? Or is it 1.5 million? Or is it a lot more? Because you're not counting the other hospitals. You're not counting the military complexes, the moving crematoriums and vans they've had. So when the CCP virus hit, when that hit, or COVID-19, however you want to call it, they had these moving crematoriums come take people away. But where does this come from? Because they have experience in doing this, moving trucks to organ traffic people. They pick people ahead of time, and they would go traffic that person. This is not just the government, not just the military complex. I don't mean the military industrial complex, the actual PLA Liberation Army. And then the doctors are involved, the police are involved.
Yeah, there's local mobs and mafias involved in this organ harvesting stuff. That's a scary, dark rabbit hole to go down. And some of the methods, if you really start researching, some of the methods that they use to actually accomplish these things, it's just hard for us to fathom. So that number doesn't surprise me at all. And that I would definitely think it's on the higher end of that because of some of them that go undocumented.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, China has a long history of different types of torture, not just from the communist areas, but going back to the Qing dynasty and even the warring kingdoms. So they use all types of methods to torture people. So I interviewed Chen Jing. I interviewed a lot of people that have been in these camps. But he told me, he was a communist official working in the embassy and adult passports and different things. He was a high-ranking one. He was put in the camps or in the prison. They beat him up for the first 7 days, and they hung him from the ceiling. Just recant your faith. And actually, he was a Falun Dafa practitioner. So and he would say, 不行，我按照真善人, which is, no way, I follow truth, benevolence, and forbearance. And they torture him with batons and say all kind of different things until the 7th day. And then they brought him down. They threw him into a cell all naked, spiders, and then put a machine gun to his head. He still wouldn't do it. And then finally, what did they do to him? They have him stand for an entire month. Around the clock, they had police rotating. And they say, you recant. He wouldn't recount. So he said for an entire month, he literally stood and he had poo there. And his legs got 3 times the size, swollen, just from standing there. And there's a lot more I can tell you. And even his friend, he says they came to his cell, took him out. 5 hours later, he sees the cellmate being taken out on the stretcher, and there's a hole in his body. He doesn't know why there was a hole. And later on, he comes out, he gets released for some reasons. And the thing was, any person that they interviewed, most of them had issues with health, so they got out. But they all had the same story, and they never talked to each other in many states and many nations around the world. The story was that they got beat up and tortured, but they were medically checked for the corneas, their skin, and blood tested multiple times. You only do that, and even EKGs. You only do that if you're trying to do heart transplants, liver, kidneys, and cornea transplants. Yeah. So just think about how sick they were. They made it into a commodity because Jiang Zemin, the former dictator of Communist Party of China, and they call him the Toad, actually. This gentleman said bankrupt them, ruin their reputation, and physically destroy them. not just the Falun Dafa, then it went to the Christians and Tibetans, Uyghurs, and the common citizens. So once you let go, you let it happen to one group, then it expanded.
Yeah.
And then everyone was silent for a good 20 years, right? All the media. So like they were wearing a mask. Now entire world is wearing a mask. It's like almost like there's like an invisible cause and effect. If good man and woman do nothing and they're silent, no matter how far it is, evil will penetrate and prosper throughout the entire world. Of us doing business with China, buying made in China goods, and our media. We give technology, Google and Cisco. I've been saying this in my lawsuit and even other things, right? And then what did William Barr just say? It's the same thing. And so did Pompeo. Mirrored exactly what I've been saying for an entire year. And then AI, and it said Orwellian. So everything I've been putting out, and even so, this book went to President Trump. It was delivered to him. I had 17 or a little more, but I gave 3 to California, and I gave 14 to the administration. 1 went to President Trump, and a few went to top brass military officials within the administration and some very, very key important people. Early November 2019. So big things was done with this. It's a very, very important book. Even the virus is in here on page 253, saying the Chinese Communist Party wanted to unleash it globally. So I don't think the planet did that. And you know the story about the Secret Service thing. So you watched the interview, the previous one. So
Yeah, and that's interesting. And I have not read that book, but I definitely plan on it. I wanted to talk about the Vatican's involvement with this and the popes and who the popes really are and what role do they play, because I think you said at one point now all popes are God sent, and that's very true. We know that now, but there's a lot of people, anytime we bring this subject up, there's a lot of people that still get triggered by it because they're not ready to hear this stuff. So I'd like to touch on it some more.
Okay, let me give you an analogy. Why is it that the majority of popes who are men rape little boys? Someone ever think about that?
Yeah.
And then why were these type of people sent in the 1950s to the church that had issues? Okay, so now getting to today, speaking of a normal at the normal level, people can believe. You say, well, the guy has psychological issues. Or some people, as you saw in my tweets, I did 4 tweets that got over 5,000 likes, right? And this was just, I guess, my base, and maybe I think you guys helped out. I'm not really sure, but at least you saw it, and it's important. So, what did I say in there? That he's not God sent. Then I said that they're going to get a one-way ticket to hell if they don't cut their ties. Then I said something else about organ trafficking related to the Pope's people, right? There's something else I haven't released, by the way. I'm gonna release a little later. But consider those things. And consider the fact about, let's say there is something as spirit. Let's say we have the spirit. And everyone, you get a spirit, and you get a spirit, and I get a spirit, and your audience gets a spirit. And let's say everyone's spirit can do good or bad. But let's say some spirits, their origins that come into bodies were never good to begin with.
Mm-hmm. We actually just talked about this on a previous episode.
Okay, well, he's a freaking demon incarnated to Pope body. That's it. That's my answer to you.
Well, and you can, and if you can't look in his eyes and see that, then something's wrong, because it's so obvious to me. And some of these screenshots and stuff, when you catch them just in the right light, that's evil. That's not a human. That's not a benevolent.
You can always tell from the eyes.
Yeah.
You can pretty much always tell from the eyes.
Well, it's possible something replicate inside him, and his true self is still inside him, but it's just taken over his main conscious. So people are like a vest. When I look at people, I see multiple things, not just a person. I see multiple things. But seeing him, for the most part, it's like a little big demon.
Yeah.
So, but this is a show that's alternative. So I guess I can go this route a little bit, right? Because on A general network, if you get on Fox News, say, oh, we can't put you on Fox News because you just used the word demon. Well, maybe they're demons too. You never know, acting good for 20 years, right? Just kidding. Or they're the little foxes, right? You know, why pick the name Fox if you're not a fox yourself?
Yeah.
You know, that's funny. That is interesting about the media, because that is actually the biggest attack. That is the biggest threat right now to the hive. So we're all existing in a hive mind world right now. Everybody's in a hive mind humanity, whatever you want to call it. And that's because of the media. So that's the cabal's biggest weapon still. And it's really interesting. Is it the people? Is it the news anchors that really are participating, or what? Or is it, you know, the people they're working for?
No, you know, I've been on a few channels that support the Great Awakening movement and the Q movement, and I've said some things that made people feel really uncomfortable, but it's really the truth. So the entire time that was censored, it wasn't just the left. It was always the conservatives, because they saw the stuff that I was putting out. It was so mind-boggling. And it was right before everything happened each time. And they had big accounts. They would never retweet. And even their friends would say, Cyrus, they'll never retweet you. They don't want to lose their platform. They'll never do it. And it's not just that. It's not just envy or jealousy or mistrust. People who are on the good side, like you said, are on the hive mind. They're controlled too. So if you looked at my the previous interview, which you liked, I mentioned, because she asked me, how did you know everything ahead of everyone else? And you printed it and you tried to do all these things, right? Not just division, but so many things we went over, right? It was like a whole chronology of 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I brought up in 2002, my pineal gland. I saw President Trump's rise. I saw a digital war in terms of a civil war, almost chaos for the entire planet. And I've said this in an interview going back since January. And I've said to many people going back almost 20 years. And what I saw was everybody was in this hive mind, you say, and every person had their role, but everything they did was preordained. Even when they did it, where they went, every person was a little program. And I saw what was going to happen. Then a nuclear thing. Afterwards, it was a huge thing. And I saw the number 6.2 billion. I thought, well, that may mean 6.2 billion people are destined to die, or the cause afterwards. Then I saw what happens afterwards, what you guys call the Great Awakening. The next stage, I saw what happens. Not in the vision, but something else, in a more clear vision. Then I saw what happens 10 years after that. So I was like, oh, if it's all destined to happen, well, what's the point of me? I had an 800-page book. I was going to try to change the course of history, but I put it down because I was pissed. I didn't understand the free will destiny part. I didn't agree with it, actually. I was like, I was bummed. So then when he comes up the escalator at Trump, I was like, that's the guy in my freaking vision. Well, I just sit at home for the past 20 years and all the knowledge I've had, and the pineal gland, all the stuff I've been able to do, and I don't tell people about it. I just do my own thing. Or maybe I'll come out and try to like change the course of history. So I come out at the Secret Service. I tell them, hey, within 1 year, everyone's going to get enslaved. Or worse, extincted with the invisible microbiome terrorism, which is a poison delivery that's going to hit Trump and everyone else. They think I'm nuts, but they still fix their security up. Then I give the Secret CIA director a 3-page report. Bioweapons coming from China, AI, enslavement, the whole world's in danger. He thinks it's genius because I put it the way his brain processed. CEO, company name, how much they're making, their location, subsidiaries, what their reach is, their capabilities, and their weapons, and the geopolitics, which included Joe Biden and so many different things. I mean, Rockefellers, I gave them all, right? And he's more on the left side. And he flew down, met me, and he's like, I'm going to take this to the military. Sorry, this is a genius. It's going to safeguard the world. So I'm like, okay. Step 2, but he didn't credit me. So he got contracts himself. Same with the Secret Service. They thought they can handle it. So I'm like sitting back and go, okay, why don't I just do this? I tease this, and I put in the subtitle how the world's in danger and why the world must support Trump for its survival. That's the subtitle. And even the synopsis, the first sentence says the entire world's in danger from China and data by MBT, microbiome terrorism, which is the CCP virus, and the outbreaks becomes AI, 5G, all these things before it happened, right? And we have people from the CIA delivered to the White House. And then we had other people deliver it in different ways. And Trump makes some statements. And then I published this, and this goes to President Trump, which has this embedded in there. And then he's getting attacked by all this, Obama Pelosi. I'm like, well, if he's being attacked, they're not going to be able to stop this. Or at least even if they don't stop it, it's going to be a huge hit on the world's people, because the MAGA and the Q, they're programmed in this hive mind to fight against the liberals and BLM, and they're going back and forth. And once this thing hits, everyone's going to be enslaved, and then all the stuff will be ushered in, virtual, augmented reality, all these different things, and then a lot of people will die because the virus will mutate. So many, and then conflicts and famine, so many things. What do? The Trump people thought they could handle it because there's a deep state around him as well. And it was a little bit too sophisticated, some parts of this book, because I talk about replicating software, how the 5G connects to the body, all the different kind of things. So what do? I launched that lawsuit. And when I hit that lawsuit, it broke the hive mind. It penetrated everywhere, but then the hive mind came back because the people start censoring me. If I didn't pick a certain symbol or a group, they wouldn't accept me. And so many different things. So you see even people, their face. Like even when I'm on Twitter and I see somebody tweet, I see the symbol that they have, I can zoom in and see who's behind it and what kind of person it is. Even when they tweet something and they write words, when I look at the words they put, I can hear their voice, and I can even know their character of what they were thinking and what they're planning to do. More than that. So and I can do this like a scan of everybody very fast.
Interesting.
So what happened was, then I put out these videos and I do the amended. When I do the amended complaint, people were like, okay, maybe he's not nuts, but then they don't believe it. Then the lockdown happens, everyone comes, Cyrus, you're a genius. We'll help you now. We'll retweet you. No, it'll cause civil war. You're nuts. What civil war? What are you talking about? Next thing you know, it's not what's civil war, right? So it's like the whole entire time I've been trying to do something. I was on David Nino Rodriguez. He's like, so you're telling me, Cyrus, you're Neo and these guys are Mr. Anderson. I'm like, no, I'm not Neo. But everyone can be part of a Neo. But yeah, a lot of people are Mr. Andersons because they're actually in that program. And you say this, you may get upset. But if you have human emotion, and if you don't see the big picture and you didn't work for it, then you're going to be inside the box. Even the people who are outside the box and saying, "Oh, these guys are social engineered," they're social engineered at another level because there's so many levels. One layer. There's so many layers of it.
I agree with that. I think that on some level we're all programmed. Like you said, if you have an emotion, then you're programmed. Even the people who don't think that they're programmed, I don't think there's any way around it. Now, obviously, there's different levels of that, and there's better ways to live your life than, let's say, some of these people in these lower programs, I guess if you want to call them that, for lack of a better word. But there's programming all over the place.
Yes. Well, it doesn't mean anyone's lower or higher value if you're here or there. It just is. But I guess me and my team, the reason why we came out and created a social media profile, all the things we did was feeling from the bottom of our hearts, we saw dangers towards people. And we wanted to input information at the right time to save lives. That's it. And change the course of history. And I've had these abilities and these visions, and I invest in these companies. So I use science, geopolitics, and martial arts and metaphysical visions all combined into something. And it was accurate. Everything was pretty much on the mark.
Well, that's the key, to combine science and spirituality. That's the only way you're going to get anywhere. And that's where the mainstream has gone wrong intentionally, obviously trying to keep us in the dark. But whenever you just have such a fact-based scientific perspective on it, and you don't incorporate any type of spiritual teachings or anything, you're going to hit a dead end. And that's where the indoctrination comes in the schooling systems and our education system, because they want.
Not to mention the science. Most of the science we're taught is wrong anyway. It's
you're right.
Completely wrong models. Yeah.
Yeah, especially physics.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and then any real science that tries to come out gets squashed because it goes against the mainstream narrative, and they can't have that. So.
Yeah.
But like quantum physics is already doing that, but they're still trying to like, keep that down.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Science and spirituality are not two separate things. It's all one thing, but they try to make it like, oh, this is science and this is everything else is like
taboo.
Yeah. That's just your fantasy beliefs that you can have, and that's fine. But there's nothing, they try to keep it locked in like the 5 sense 3D reality as far as like science, but reality is so far beyond that. If you don't understand that, you're never going to understand
what's happening
or why you're never going to understand reality because what we see and what we experience with our 5 senses is such a minute, small part of reality. Like everything beyond that is actually much more powerful, and was what's actually our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotions. Like we're literally creating reality as we go, and shifting timelines and stuff. And if you don't know that, you're never going to understand what's happening, really.
Yeah, bingo. Well said.
Yeah, timeline's the issue. Shifting that timeline,
mm-hmm.
and the end result was going to be the same. It won't change, but there's the impact. The negative impact can be lessened by a great deal.
Yeah,
by a great awakening, and it's not about arrests or exposing. That's a process. But to me, this whole path of a great awakening, I started. Well, the things that people are talking about now with all this cabal, I didn't never call it cabal, but I started when I was in my teens. Started researching and reading books and all these globalists, probably middle teens, about 15 years old. And one of the books I read on Iran, it was written by the former Shah of Iran, and he was one of the most powerful people on the planet. And he explained how the globalists took him out and ruined Iran and the Middle East. So that book was called Answer to History. I read that high school, I think when I was like 15 or 16, 15 or something, yeah. And that taught me a lot. And so then I realized, and he was communicating with the Rockefellers, and he said what happened with the Marxists and what Jimmy Carter did, and all these different cartels. And then once you read that, you get into it and you see. But I was always interested in metaphysical things because since I was a little kid, my third eye was open a little bit. I could see them. I could see the network.
Mm-hmm.
So the network for me is just like the Matrix. The movie The Matrix, it's just like that without numbers. It's just lines. What I see is like frequency lines, which go this way and that way and that way and every way. So I can see as a little kid. And then when I started doing martial arts, it got really enhanced. And then after I started a certain discipline, when I moved back to the US, a certain discipline, that got really, really enhanced. Not just that, but so many things. Because the senses that you said, it's not just a 5, it's thousands.
Yeah.
More than thousands. It's a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But this comes with not just practice, but putting down negative vices. So it's not just, it's also in religions. It's in the Catholicism. To achieve a light body, you have to become a saint. It's in the Chinese practice of the Falun Dafa practice. It's in the Tibetans. It's in the Christians, Christ consciousness. It's in just normal, the Tao, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Confucianism goes that way as well. Tao's, so I read the Tao Te Ching when I was in China. And I read that in the year 2000. And it's a quick read, but I can see the inner meanings inside it. And so many numerous inner meanings, a lot. And so this is my understanding and my sharing of like a little bit of the path that I had and some of the things I learned, because everyone starts as a kid, right? And they have their vices and then they work on themselves. So I constantly have to work on myself because I can fall down. My state of mind, if it falls down automatically, even the abilities that on to that level disappear.
Yeah.
So, like automatically within a second, it'll disappear.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, and that just goes back to the whole thing. Like, I mean, I believe our whole purpose right now is to be striving for ascension, enlightenment, and that's like you said, like everything you just talked about is things we can do to work towards that, and that's where the Great Awakening comes in, because that's where the real battle is fought anyway. This is a spiritual war, and if we're not on any type of level to be participating, you know, we're just gonna get sucked in with the rest of the people who aren't paying attention. So it's really interesting how that all ties together. So this wouldn't be an interview with Cyrus if we didn't talk about AI a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I just have a question. One question in particular is about the quantum AI. Is there a benevolent AI? Or is it all malevolent?
It depends what level you're talking about.
Well, I've heard, so really quick, I've heard, we hear about this quantum financial system. I'm sure you've heard of it, QFS. And I've heard that this would be a benevolent AI that's unhackable, that's, you know, I don't know, what are your thoughts on all that?
At the human level, which is deplorable today, you can say it's benevolent, but we're made in the image of the Creator, according to every book. Even to the Persians, I brought up the Tibetans, the found out Christians, and even the Jews, right? In this episode, well, first time, but the Avestans, the Persians, talk about it, and there's Zoroastrian texts, and they have a literature going back, so that we are made in the image of God, or maybe the image of angels, or however one wants it. So if that's the case, that means the ability in our body and our mind is just like what the heavens would have, or the ascended beings, or the enlightened beings, or the awakened beings would have. That means their brains is like quantum. You see, you can do things that you wouldn't need the quantum machine. But I did a movie called AI: The Plan to Invade Humanity. It's about UFOs, which spawned a lot of things all over the internet. But to answer your question, at the standard of a holy thing, or a godly thing, or an awakening being, or ascended being, there is no benevolent AI, because artificial intelligence has so many levels. And what I said in the movie AI: The Plan to Invade Humanity, that it comes from the ETs, and the ETs are incompetent and a lower life form than we human beings are, because we're made in the image of the Creator. Thus,
you're talking about like the gray type of like maybe the grays that we hear about, or like the reptilian.
Those I put, the Creator considers them as the garbage of the universe. but yeah, those are our garbage. But to a lot of people, like Carrie, I was on the show with Carrie Cassidy. Mm-hmm. She was a little offended, and then she realized what I was trying to say, because they consider ETs to be anything that's not human. It's kind of ascendant beings or Greek gods. So here's the thing: the word gods, right? But Christians kind of don't understand their own books. I was sitting down with a pastor recently. He was one of the smartest pastors. Actually, I was on a show, His Glory, and we talked about a few things. And it's the first pastor I realized he understood things. He says, "Well, yeah, a lot of the things in the Bible have been taken out, been hidden from us." And angels belong to God. And in the Old Testament and New Testament, they talk about gods all the time. They don't say God, they say gods.
Plural.
They all belong to God. That means gods are like the angels, or the Buddhas, or the Greek gods, or the Taoists. Or it's just semantics. Every language has a different term for, like, the warring angels or the demons. They have terms that link back to anything, so it's not in the plane of mortals. If you're an immortal, if you're above this dimension that ages and dies, and you're in a dimension that doesn't die and it doesn't age, then you are immortal, or you're in the realm of gods or angels. that belong to the Creator, to God. So thus, if AI is not the level of the angels, but something in the intermedium, which they use spaceships and flying machines to go from one galaxy to another one solar system to another solar system. That means those are not angels or gods or Taoists or Buddhas or ascended beings. They're just like humans.
Just like us. Yeah.
No.
Well,
their competence is like humans. They may use technology to enhance their brains or their abilities, but their origin could be, their spirits could be something of higher level, but their state is not of those levels. So when Cassidy considers everything to be ETs, but for me, ETs are just anything that uses machines and crafts to get to different dimensions. But if you're an actual, like an angel or God, you can make yourself manifest or disappear from another universe to here, like that. And then there's no, and you have boundless powers. So in front of mortal, in front of humanity, right? So thus, if artificial intelligence is a machinery, it's a technology that belongs to the ET races, that means it's a tool. But for at that level, they can call it whatever they want. But the level of angels and gods or Buddhas or just God, the heavenly realms, it's not benevolent because it's not something they use at the level. It's a tool that can be used for bad or good. But why is it not benevolent at those levels? Because it's not the standard they have. It's not the means of culture or character or being that they have. It's something different. It's kind of like here you have somebody like jug down a beer and then smoke a joint and then do something like this, and then let's say they don't look holy at the moment, right? But an angel wouldn't be doing those things. They would be doing something different at their level. So if they're using the tool to do that, then they're not the level of angels or God. They're just the level of mortals. So quantum AI is not something that's meant for human beings, because human beings, from my understanding, from what I read and the things I've done the past 20 years, the goal of a human being is to ascend, is to achieve enlightenment, awakening. So if you're going to use AI will control your mind. AI will control your culture.
You're trapped, and that's the lower level, right?
Lower level, you'll never ascend with artificial intelligence.
I agree with all that, and that's a very interesting perspective on the ETs versus the ascended masters or angels or whatever. I think that's a great way to describe it, actually, and I agree with the AI thing also. That's why I asked you, because I've been hearing about this benevolent AI, and I really wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
There is no such thing as a benevolent AI for the standard of ascended beings, or for humans like us that are meant to be. In that movie, AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity, which did you guys get a chance to watch that?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay, I put it out and I tweeted to President Trump and the Pentagon, and within 3 days they released their UFO files. And all the internet, AI invasion. It was called AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity. It's on YouTube. It has 226,000 views only thus far. I was hoping to get some help and people would retweet it because they had hidden codes about the lockdown and how you can overcome it. If that would have been retweeted and viral, it would have saved the country trillions of dollars. But
it's not too. I mean, is it too late? I mean, I'll retweet it as soon as we're done here.
but you don't. So there are people that have been watching me for almost a year. For nothing, they'll get 2,000 to 10,000, 20,000 retweets, and they watch you, but they'll never help.
Yep.
They could have helped the nation by helping the people who are helping President Trump. And they could, they would have got blessings for doing that. But in a sense, when you do that and you have a platform and you don't help, you actually get something not very good.
Yeah.
Blessings, because you're giving. Although some people get those platforms because they social engineer and they use other people's information and they build themselves, which is cheating and stealing and communism. They do that. But and then they get bad stuff that come to them for their future when they do that. But when they actually censor and don't help in this situation where the world's in danger, and that's even worse. That's in the realms of the censor, the big tech, or even worse to some degree. Because if you're pointing at the cabal, but behind the scenes you're making moves, and within group chats you're saying don't do this, don't trust that person, don't retweet, and then you see everything was on the mark. I don't mean a lot of people, right? Then you are playing the dark force. You're playing the good role, but inside you're not. So it's like you're becoming a Mr. Anderson. So that's when I came out and I made this thing public. I said, even in my bio, what did I say? I said I found extinction codes for the majority of the race. Extinction codes. So that means in the next stage, which I've said in an interview I did with Laura Eisenhower recently, that hundreds of millions of people's lives are in danger in one shot, and then billions. So this was a warning shot, what happened to the world's people. And we did put a lot of energy out there and a lot of effort to mobilize geopolitics, tech, and different things. And it had a lot of effect. But these choices that people are making, not just the people, the liberals, but on the conservative side, they're making choices. And the ascended beings or the angels, they're watching everybody. So when they see people do stuff like that, it's like an X mark. Enough X marks you get, then. So that's why I'm saying this great awakening just doesn't have to do with exposing the left. It's looking inside and seeing what the people who are within the great awakening are doing wrong themselves, because they're affecting everything. Because if this great awakening would have been done in the upright way, the nation wouldn't have been locked down. In a sense, it's a failure of the white hats. It's a huge failure. Because if you're righteous, these things don't happen. Why did Rome fall? Why did Persia fall? Why did Greece fall? Is it because evil was just too strong? No. It's because good became evil. Good became illicit. Good became decadent, degenerate, immoral. When that happened, everyone gets extincted. And if I was right about everything thus far, like I had a time machine, people saying, Cyrus, you're too negative. No, I'm giving warnings, because I'd rather say it than not say it. Then you see what happens. Who would have thought the entire planet would have been locked down like that? Nobody, but I did, and I gave it a Secret Service, and I would start saying it before I put the lawsuit out, right before. World's in danger. So if I was right on so many things, and there wasn't not one human being, I don't mean incentive beings, that was right and wrote down, well, then maybe people should listen and should really help. But they don't. They haven't been. Even they saw. So what does that tell you? That means they are controlled. They are in a position of good and saying good things, but they are actually a program. They've been designed there from prehistory, because the timeline. So there's an old force that was designed to take out the majority of humanity within a certain destined timeline. And that's what I saw in my vision in the year 2002. And I saw what happened to Trump. Without Trump, everyone is extincted. With Trump, majority gets extincted at a certain time. So, but timeline can change. But it has to do with people. But the people who are put in those positions, it's come back. You said, is it just a Fox? Not Fox News, not CNN. It's not all this mainstream, not just corporate leaders. It's anybody in a position of power. This includes the good guys who are in positions of social media platforms or different places, because it's designed. They've actually been picked to be there from thousands of years ago. It's an old timeline, and it has it actually corresponds with parallel universes. So it's not just, if you take one of them out, then another one comes in place. So it's not like you can go take them out. Yes. You have to have them change from their heart. I realize, because they're actually ending their own futures by fulfilling that timeline. Very difficult for people. At the beginning, we talked about how high can I go? And I'm not going very high. I'm just going a little bit. But this is stuff that people will think is nuts.
No, it's not nuts. I actually love that you're taking it this direction because that's what we're all about. Yeah, but keep going, please. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's what it is. I mean, I've been complaining left and right about plagiarism the entire time because every time someone looks at my stuff and then they would support that person, and then that person would get a platform, and then but I had the skill and I knew what's going to happen at what time, so I could inject that information at the right time to be able to turn the timeline. And they'd put somebody I'll give you an example. I've been saying about transhumanism from day one, right? And the good guys wouldn't retweet, but then some girl that looks a little blonde that puts a cross start retweeting her and make her famous. And she never wasn't her finding, never knew anything about stuff, just went and heard people say stuff and opened the source, read it, and then came and said this. So that's when you do that. And here's the thing: a lot of journalists and YouTube content creators, they did the same thing. What they do is look at other people's stuff and they copy it. And then they go say the stuff. Once they say it, everyone looks at them. Oh, wow, you're a genius. And then they get a platform. And if you look at it, the entire world is journalists getting on each other's podcasts, or it's media content creators getting on back and forth at the top level. And the same structure is starting with alternative media again. So once these alternative media replace the old cabal, they become the new cabal because power corrupts. Because you have to have a system of checks and balances. You have to have the expert. You have to have the interview and the host. When you have the host and interview as a host, then comes and becomes expert, and everywhere else, that's one thing. But then if you have someone who never had any experience and was never expert at anything, they just look at your stuff and then they put themselves in that position, and then they grow. Then they make big mistakes in the future. They give opinions or analysis that ruin society. And that's been the case all around the world. It's not just with media. It's with politics. It's with banking. It's with universities. It's just how the dark forces, the invisible things you can't see, manipulate people who want power, fame, and have greed to gain power. It is basically a game of thrones. It's the beginning of time. This has been the issue from human history. Always been the issue.
This is one of the most intriguing things that I've listened to in a while. You're bringing up a lot of great points that I know so many people need to hear, and I know so many people haven't even considered, because some of the stuff that you're talking about now is things are clicking for me, and it's making sense. Yeah, and I do know what you mean about the content creators, people just putting out other people's information. And then those are the types of channels and accounts that don't retweet you, or they're because they're in it for their own reasons. They're not in it to help out the other people, whatever. I know where you're going with that. And I see that happening a lot, actually. So I'm glad you touched on that too, because there are a lot of seemingly benevolent accounts out there that are doing it for the wrong reasons. But I'm also seeing a lot of these people being exposed. A lot of the true colors are being shown right now. Maybe not everybody's seeing it, but people are picking up on it. I don't think you can be deceptive for much longer, especially the energy's coming in right now.
Everyone's going to get judged in the future, everybody. But what I saw, that every person that did something, someone else covered for that person, another person covered that person. It's as a pandemic for the conservatives and this Great Awakening movement. It really is. And I wouldn't be complaining. Like I said, I could have came out with books and made a profile for myself for the past 20 years. I never cared. I actually don't care about human attention. If 7 billion people said, "Oh, Cyrus, we like you. You're a nice guy. You're amazing. Or you're cool," or whatever, it really doesn't move me at all. Not one bit. Or 7 billion people say, "We don't like you. You're this and you're that." It doesn't move me at all. Literally everything I did, my team did, was for the set goal. We saw the world in danger. We wanted to get the backing. And, I initially got on Alex Jones, and then he weaponized his entire media by looking at my stuff. And then 5 times I got on his show. I got on Epic Times a couple of times too. And then I got an SGT, X-22, Repel 78, John B. Wells, and Laura Eisenhower, and so on. And then you guys, and Tricia, of course. So yeah, that's the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing. But I can't be successful, and the people around me, other people can't be successful unless other people help. So, for instance, you guys have an expertise, and that is you're hosting a show, and you did your homework beforehand. You looked at tweets, you looked at the whole overview thing. The moment I sat down, I sensed an energy of not only just calmness, but and care, but literally an understanding of why you're here, because you have a good intention. You want to help. You want to do good things for the universe. And I'm not trying to just point to those people and say they're bad. I'm making this because I'm saying it can cause a lot of lives to die, but at the same time, giving them more chances to change. Because if it's not them, it's the next person. It's Mr. Anderson, one after another. So it has that's the thing. The world's still in danger. What I'm telling you guys, the next one's going to be hundreds of millions of people off, like, and it's a matter of like that. I'm not kidding. And that timeline can change, but it can happen anytime. So this timeline was extended. It was supposed to take out a lot of people when it first hit. I don't just mean the virus, the combination of a lot of people were supposed to be taken out. And a lot of effort was made, not just by me, but people behind me, but a lot of different people you don't know about. And they put a lot of energy behind things. And then, of course, the creator, as I put in that movie, AI, the Planet Made Humanity, I put a lot of hints in there. I said, don't worry, the creator has another plan. Just do these three things. Repent for if you hurt anybody, whether your family, your spouse, your friends, stranger, or you were complicit in these camps in China with the Tibetan, the Falun Dafa, the Christians, and the Uyghurs and so on. And then secondly, is expose the Chinese Communist Party with all your might, because I put the evil red dragon, the dark force that controls the whole world, is positioning himself behind the Communist Party of China. And the third thing I said is wish for a great awakening or enlightenment for all, and that every human being is special. Why did I say it's special? Because we're not the ETs. We're made in the image of the Creator, and our carnate bodies, our spirits, are very important and hail from high places. Every person has a vow. Like this time in history, some people may not understand or grasp. They just think everything's natural, but it's so important. Everything's important. And it's not just limited, narrow way of thinking of traditional, like certain books told you do this, do that, or it's going to be biblical. Not a lot of things that was in the Bible. Even the Bible says it is not told. It's kept secret because it was given for people at a primitive time, and Jesus came to actually reform what they did, because back then they were just about pray, Lord, war, wrath, kill them, because that's what the warring tribes were back in the day. And then when he came in, he brought a message of compassion. But if you look at this movement, which supported me to certain degrees, you hear good things. People were like, Jesus, the Lord, prayer. You don't hear repent at all, just prayer. And then you also hear wrath, the wrath of God. And, it's going to be biblical and different things, because there are elements that are not from actually Christ, but from the old timeline and from the old energy that's behind something. I'm not going to say too much about it. That's engulfed within certain things. And that itself, while it's trying to get justice and fight against the crazy parts of the left, will create an intertwined combination of circular things that cause a chain of reactions that builds to a boiling point that cause huge conflicts and death globally. That's why I interjected a lawsuit right there, showing everybody's in a hive mind, back off. Even in the Bible, a lot of people are Christians. It says the war is not with the flesh. not flesh. That means you don't hate that human being. You don't try to kill the human being. You try to somehow expel the energy that's behind it. And we can't do it unless we ourselves have a certain energy. We work on ourselves. And if you all don't come together, and I mean, there's that saying you guys have, how do you say it? I'm sorry. One for all.
Where we go one, we go all.
It's not a bad saying. I actually like that. But it's still the energy behind the people on the conservative side. It's us versus the evil left.
Versus them. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. But this is how the left disarms the conservatives. That's how to do it. They'll actually will say, "Oh, these guys are nuts. It's always but us and them. Let's accept diversity." I'm not gonna get diversity. Next thing you know, they want to mix you with animals and do child molestation. So it's like, because both sides are like the extreme. That's why the left is calling the Q people the far right, which is they're not the far right, but they had to create this extreme movement because the left went so extreme crazy. What are they doing? Hunting a president for 3 years straight? Not just fake news, but like I would say like fallen crazy news. Almost like the fallen angel created demonic news, just put demons.com, demon press, demon updates, demon release. This for every morning, demon press conference. Demon galore, that's what it was. So then you have the Q movement, which I call the perfect antidote for fake news. That being said, they create their own fake news too. So it's like it's corruption goes everywhere, but it's needed. If this movement didn't come, it would have been something else. But the MAGA and the Q, if it didn't come, it had to balance out this extreme craziness. But again, if there isn't wisdom that comes around from this great awakening of benevolence and wisdom, then it will not succeed. And the future, Q will not exist. It'll be something else. It's just used for this timeline because it's designed from the old plan, the old universe. The old timeline designed the Q movement to come in as a counterpiece to hit this demonic hordes that's coming. But the next timeline, it won't exist because Q is not Jesus Christ. And I'm not saying Jesus Christ will be the future or not. The Christians will say that. They'll say, but then, if you talk to a pastor, they'll say, well, there's no Jesus, there's Yeshua. And then the higher level thinking of a pastor will say, well, there's no Yeshua. In the realms of angels, they don't even use human language. It's just at this level. It's the Hebrew language here. When you go in the heavens, they don't use that. And you go at a higher level, they don't even use their tongue to talk because it's like lower level beings use tongues to talk. Mm-hmm. Higher levels, they use their telepathy. It's like a frequency they send. That's why Elon Musk wants to chip you in your brain because he's come here like, these guys are so amazing. Look at the brain, it's so freaking powerful. It's like a model of the universe. Because you're made in the image of the creator. How did I connect myself to the entire network and see everything that's going on? And then I publish it in this book in a fast way. Because someone did a review of my book recently. I said, wow, there's so many grammatical and punctuation mistakes, but the book is so great. It was on Amazon. It's like the person was out of money or they were rushing to get out. I'm like, yeah, it was both. Because I'm like, I gave it a timeline, right? Secret Service, the CIA director, and then the first book. And I'm like, oh shit, the bioweapon's going to hit soon. Boom, boom, bam. I'm like, even writing to Trump's AI department, if you don't talk to Trump right now, huge bad things will happen. And he didn't talk to me, little bastard. So the CTO of the Trump administration, little bastard guy. He's the head of the AI department. He thinks he knows something. Anyway, so then I had the good guys deliver this to him. But Trump did a lot of things behind the scenes you guys don't know about. The military did to prevent a lot of things in this book. But the bioweapon, that somehow that didn't get through because, come on, how they're going to believe? Some of the things I put in here in this book is just like way out there. even the concept of rape mind, which I termed, and so things.
What are your thoughts on this? Is another just a theory that we hear going around that the white hats saw the virus coming. They allowed it to happen to an extent to use it as a cover to fast track some of the things they already wanted to do anyway. Is that a possibility?
No, not the white hats. It's the energy behind the white hats.
Okay.
It's not something they're conscious of. But no. The good force did not want this virus to hit. It wanted to be done in a different way. And that's why I put in here, expose China's Communist Party faster in these concentration camps. That's the key. You hit Saruman first. You take out everything else. If you don't hit Saruman, there's Mr. Andersons everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's the issue. So no, that's just excuse for people who failed, and they want to cover up that that the movement is all knowing, that there's some person behind the scenes that's like God behind the Q symbol. It's not. Because I'll tell you this, when I first came out, they came to me like, Cyrus, are you Q? Some people. I'm like, no, I don't know. A, B, C, D, I've never heard of Q. Cyrus, we will not give the Q army. Like, we need help. The world's in danger. No, Q knows what he's doing. Q knows about you. Q knows what you're doing. And just hang tight. When it's time, the Q army can back you. Right now, it's not your time. Like, no, you don't understand. Q doesn't know. The world's in danger. Sorry. And these are people that are connected to Q, right? So no, he didn't know. Q did not know. Okay? Q did not, unless he's a terrorist, he did not know that this virus was going to hit and do this. Okay? And here's the thing. For the most part, I like the Q movement. I like the Great Awakening. The Punisher symbol, these things come from the underworld. I don't particularly like them. But recently, after socialism came in, people use that in Hollywood and different places. So it's imprinted a digital layer in the brains of soldiers. And soldiers in the past, for like hordes of like invading tribes, used to put this type of imageries. Not the good people. They put angelic things, or of gods, Nordic gods, or of the cross. That's what they put. But the thing is, the left is not afraid of the cross, is not afraid of the angels, is not afraid of anything else. But when you put this little Punisher symbol, because there's like something behind them, subconsciously, it's like psychological warfare. They get afraid. So that's why there's so many layers of the Q movement. The first layer is the person who created it, which person read the Bible a lot in the Old Testament. That affected creating the Q movement. It's actually it's a psyop, as a lot of people in the Q movement told me. It's not really a psyop; it's a counter psyop, because there's a psyop against country, against nation, is an insurgency against General Flynn, is an insurgency against America and the world. Thus, a counter psyop is created to open up people's minds, understand. Look, this fake media is truly fake, and they're enemy of the people. That's why I support it. Most of the movement. That being said, it can get violent at some point, because conservatives, for the most part, are really good at, they like weapons, they're really good at stuff. When they see these crazies on the street, shooting up the police, raping women, doing arson, putting fires, at some point they're going to be like, enough is enough. And then when they come out, they don't play games. It's not like the BLM come in here and do a couple beat ups and act all tough. They'll come in there with sniper weapons and machine AR-15s, and they're good at it. And they'll take out, like, in one day, hundreds of people like that. And people are like, holy, I hate that term, by the way. So I've been hearing that a lot. Every time someone tweets something, they say that word. But so the point is, it can blow up like that. And once that happens, done. Because then the feds will come in, and these guys are like, we're fighting for our constitution, we're fighting for our country. Then they'll make tenfold, and the whole country will just go flames. Thus, I did that tweet about a month ago, or 2 weeks ago, said, Patriots, please holster it, because I can see the cause and effect. Because I'm not saying it's not a right to defend your country, defend your home, defend your land and your family. Do that. You have to use violence to counteract violence. Meaning, if someone's going to rape your wife in your home or kill you, then you have to use a weapon to defend yourself. That's your Bill of Rights, your Second Amendment, and so on. It's your freedom of choice. But if you want to go out in these protests to counteract these guys and then use weapons, this is where it hurts Trump, because then everyone says this entire movement is full of terrorists or whatever. That gives them the perfect opportunity to do that, and that weakens President Trump. Thus, I put that tweet, holster it, because the left is actually scared. They're scared of these symbols, because behind the symbols, some of them are military, and they're very good at what they do, and they don't take crap. So it's like they're not, like I said, these left people will do a lot of bad things and small ones have big impacts. But when these guys move, you watch out, because they're military and they're skilled. So, and a lot of these left are victims. They're being controlled by this mainstream media that's being controlled by the corporations. And behind it, there's a demonic force or spirit that's controlling that. And in order to defeat that, people on the White House, they need to improve themselves, increase their frequency, increase their spiritual power, increase their goodness and their wisdom and their righteousness. The more righteous they become, the more righteous we become. That means no evil can stand in front of you. It's like there's a saying that it goes back to ancient times. The Buddhists have it, the Christians have it, the Catholics, the Zoroastrians, even the Falun Dafa, the Chinese. And it's like this: when righteousness with a huge energy field comes into a place, all evil will disappear. So if the movement is filled with compassionate, righteous people that put down their negative biases, then they can all be following the path of enlightenment or awakening or ascension. Once you do that, these little demons are nothing. Because what did I say? We're made in the image of the Creator. So we're supposed to be ascended, awakened, enlightened, or receive salvation from the Creator. Thus, these little ETs or demons that use these crafts and machines and quantum technology, they're nothing. And once we go beyond that, then these demons below them and the grays and even demonic actions, they're nothing. So the fault actually doesn't lie. This is a very interesting interview, because there's a lot of things that I hold. The fault is not with the left. It's with the failure of the conservatives to not be good enough. That's the issue. If the power and the energy of the conservatives were good, evil would not exist. Well, that's the issue. There is fault on both sides. And you may get a lot of dislikes on this, or people may actually understand what I'm saying and like this a lot.
Well,
and negative comments in this interview. I don't know, but I'm speaking truth. So
well, you're right. It is both sides, and whether you like Q or follow Q, one of the most recent drops, they listed a bunch of names of pedophiles and convicted pedophiles, and they were just as much on the right as the left. It wasn't all left like you would expect. And that was a really good example of what you're talking about. It exists on both sides.
Yes, it takes two to tango, as they say, right? Yeah. So that's why I like the movement. It's like how I was like 20 years ago. I was just about exposing so many things. But if the average person within the movement and any movement becomes better, then the black hats, even they'll change because they're controlled. Mm-hmm. So there really is no black hats if you consider from a higher perspective. You can say, so they go to a little different perspective. In the past, it wasn't like we do today. The priests or the monks or whatever, they would do exorcism on people. When someone in a village did bad things, they would do exorcism. Actually, in the past, girls didn't wear makeup. They all had rosy glows, and they had good skin. And usually in the village, when a girl did something bad, and society did something bad, that entire village, their futures would change, even their skin would change. This is in ancient times, by the way. This is old stories of the Persians. Go back. So that's why makeup entered, because it's a veil. It's like it's to cover up something. So that's what I'm saying. Today's generation of people, and even 80 years ago, is not what it was 2,000 years ago. People think 2,000 years ago people were all evil and there was all this rape and pillaging. It wasn't like people think. It's not what people think. All this corruption from the TV and the bad music, it actually has an effect on the well-being of people. And then the culture gets affected and the conduct of the people gets affected as well. So that's why you look at little kids when they're 4 or 5 years old, when they haven't been dumbed down by society or like corrupted. All of them have even babies. Why does it always have a rosy glow? Why? I can talk about the subject for 2-3 hours, actually, explain it in a very detailed way. But it has to do with what you do to society, your character, and different things, so many different things. So,
yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so much we can talk about. We just have to get you back on again.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna ask a last question. I don't know why I got on all these different topics this time, but yeah.
No, it's great. I love it. I love it. You're bringing up a lot of interesting points, giving me, and I'm sure a lot of people, plenty to think about, because you're breaking things down in a way that we're just not doing right now. And because obviously we're existing in a program, people are getting distracted by things. They're not working on themselves. We're not critically thinking as much as we claim we are. And there's just so many things happening right now. So it's nice to see it from a different perspective for once. And I appreciate that. So thanks for bringing all this forward.
Thanks for allowing me to be critical, because most people want good views and good reviews, and people like them and not to be critical. And I'm sometimes a little bit more too critical than I should be. But I feel that if all of us can work on ourselves, even myself, not to be as judgmental, but here's the thing: if you don't say things and you don't judge and you don't try to better yourself and others, then this timeline won't change. And if I'm right about this extinction codes thing, then why not look at the entire picture as a whole, as humanity reaching a really true great awakening? But that has to do with ending selfishness. I don't mean just be like a selfless, serve everybody left and right, somewhere in the middle, right? But that has to do with putting down so many attachments. You know how long it took me to put down fear? Like someone told me, Cyrus, you have the balls the size of the planet or something to be able to, drop this lawsuit against Obama, Clinton, Biden, Schiff, and Pelosi, and Google, and Communist China, and George Soros Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, CNN, and so many more. And I said, well, yeah, I didn't have the fear, but I also did it it was a lawsuit on the behalf of those people to bring awakening. And it reached over 1 billion people. The information, a lot of people looked at it. Even Trump's generals. So I was on his glory, and on the live twice, he said it, on 2 of his lives, that Trump's generals literally sent him the lawsuit, and then he called me up for an interview. Actually tweeted at me. I saw it. So I've been on the show twice. And so what's my point here? A lot of things have to be put down. I haven't put down fear 100%. I would say maybe 99%. It fluctuates between 99 to 100%. I still, there's something as being cautious, right? Mm-hmm. So, but putting down fear, putting down jealousy, ego, pride, lust, emotion, and ignorance, sloth. That one, sometimes I can be a little procrastinating myself, so that's just work. So anyone can drop anytime, right? So, but if you can put down all these negative things, not just the 7 sins or 6 desires, there's so many, it's like a multitude, especially with these smartphones that come out and technology. The attachment to anything, to be controlled by a smartphone. This controls people by proximity sensors. To putting down these smartphones, the attachment to it, the TV, the attachment to wanting to get approval or recognition from being loved by somebody. Then if you're not being loved, does that mean you're worthless? you're not being cared for and loved, does that mean you won't succeed? No, because the enlightenment, the ascension, has to do with yourself and not being attached to anything. So once you put down all these attachments, then you can work on the middle process of starting to ascend. So, but it's a long-term process. I mean, it's so long to get to that level, and you can drop at any time. I've fallen. So in that interview I did with Tricia, I said, one time I flew past our universe and went to a black place, and she's like, "That's called the void." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Then I was going like this, and it was so fast. And then when I got to the black, I got past the stars, and it was all black. I'm like, oh, "What's after here? It must be the black hole or something." And I was like, and I was going so fast, but it was endless. And I went, whoosh. And when I went like that, it was just like a darting flash. Boom! And I entered another cosmos. When I entered another cosmos, then it slowed down. But it was huge. And I was like, wow. But then the energy inside me was just going, and it was feeding my propeller. It was basically propelling me from behind. It was almost like I had a jet inside of me that would propel my spirit. And then I was like, wow. And it stopped flowing. And then I fell. And I fell on top of a big mountain. And this mountain was so freaking huge. And it would make our universe go a little dot. So it took me a very long time to get to the level. So imagine how much energy you have to not only fly past the clouds, into our galaxy, past the universe, past the black hole, the void, whatever we call it, and then enter another cosmos. I mean, it took me a long time to get to that point, and then doing so many things. And then later on, I felt I couldn't fly that far. Right now, I haven't tried, but I don't think I can fly that far. So,
are you speaking of astral projection? Is that what you would use?
What is that term, astral projection? Does that mean when you kind of project? No, I talk about my actual physical spirit out of my body.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Your spirit leaves, and like, because I've done it before, but not willingly. I've gone and I'm flying around through space, and then at a certain point, I realize what's going on, and I get fear kicks in, and then I'm sucked right back to my body. I was just curious if that's what you were talking about, or is this something totally different?
It's a little different. Also, I've done it when I've been awake as well. So, but it shouldn't be done because you may mess up and then your body can die. So that's why, because when you die, your spirit leaves your body. If you attain awakening or salvation, then your spirit will go to that place. So, but if you haven't, then it won't go there. It'll get spit back. So, this is already reaching an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to say my last thing. It may actually give another big dent to people who have like maybe a very limited acceptance of understanding certain possibilities. So according to the ancient Persians and Vestans, they believed that when you die, if you didn't get ascended, awakened, or enlightened, or saved, or receive salvation, your spirit will come out of your body, your mind is wiped, and you go into another life. The Catholics have a similar thing. They call it purgatory. You go to purgatory, and then if you purify yourself, then you get saved. Then the Greeks, they call the drinking from the river of forgetfulness. You drink the wine there. Once you drink the wine or the water, you forget everything. Once you forget everything, then you're born again. And then you have a new life. It's the same soul, but your memory is completely wiped. Christians believe, no, as long as I say I believe in Jesus, I'm saved. I'm bumped up. No matter how jealous they are, how much they cheat, they lie, steal, lustful, prideful, no matter. You just can go to with the angels and be in God's house, no problem. If that's the case, why weren't you born there to begin with? Why would you be put here? Exactly. It has to do with enlightenment testing, right? So that means when you die, if you didn't reach that levels, why would they even accept you? What would you look at an angel, you make some kind of comment, or you steal, or no way you accept you up there. Oh no, it says all I have to do is believe in Jesus. What does that really mean to believe in Jesus, to believe in God? First you have to repent, read the book, You repent first. But when you repent, what does it mean? That means you never do those things again. That means you constantly work on yourself, moving upwards, not downwards. We just pray. You think your prayer will be answered if you go up and down, you do good and bad one day? If you have these vices, no, it will not be answered. It's little stuff, but you'll never be bumped up. If that was the case, why even put you here? People have been praying for 2,000 years. Did it do much for a lot of people? Whole villages were slaughtered, raped, killed, or all this stuff happened. Why? Because, I thought about these things when I was 12 years old. Because when I was in Iran, when I was like 6, 7 years old, the Muslims would say, if you don't believe in the prophet is Muhammad and God is Allah, which is like Elohim. Allah, it comes from Elohim, which is the Hebrew for God in the Old Testament. So the Jewish people were actually descendants or vice versa of the Arabs. So what the Muslims did was actually Muhammad was kind of like utilized the things of the Old Testament. So then I come here and the Christians are saying the same thing. And I'm like, I ask my question myself, if the Muslims for 14 years, 100 years is saying, if you didn't hear the word of Muhammad, then you went to hell. Then what happened to all the Chinese and all the Africans over there and all the Americans have never heard about it? Then you come to the Christians, you didn't hear about Jesus and you didn't accept him as your savior, you go to hell. Now, what happened to all the people who didn't hear about him for, after Jesus left for the first 400 years? It was just in the Roman area and other places. Then before everyone died, and then what happens to everyone else? And they never heard about it. They all went to hell. Yeah. It's like, and you go to the Buddhists. So yeah, everyone goes to hell. Like, okay, so everywhere on the planet, everyone's saying they come from God and there's a savior, and everyone's going to go to hell. That's why the left thinks that the right is crazy. The right is actually not crazy. They just don't understand the entire big picture. They never thought about it and never ascend to those levels to actually see it, because more than half in the Bible is untold. It even says that. So it's actually a program designed by the creator so people can have a certain culture to get to this end times and people can reach an awakening. Not the great awakening or rest, but a great awakening enlightenment of attainment to have a future so you can get salvation. So again, how do you get received by God? When you really truly believe, you don't do those bad things anymore and you get purified and you become good. That's the whole key. That's why, I was talking to Pastor Dave. I said this thing. He's like, yeah, it's very interesting, Cyrus. Well, our thing is, like it says in the Bible, that everyone will have a chance to hear of Christ in their lives. Well, then maybe they heard it in a different term. He's like, yeah, in India, they use a different language and a different image. And this place, different language, different image. Because even before, when Christ was around, did they ever use the word Christ? No, they use the word Yeshua. Christ is from Christos, from Latin. So even today's Christians are using Jesus or Christ, which is not from Christ, not from actually Jesus. It was Yeshua. So then it comes to the language that I said, the semantics, that there's so many different layers. So then you go back to, then what really is the truth? Then God can mask himself, manifest himself in different languages, in different realms, in different times, and in different ways. And you can appear. So what it says in the Bible is actually true. Christ can appear anywhere, meaning God can appear anywhere. Because Christ, there is no such thing as, that's Latin. Jesus Christ, Yeshua, was a Jewish person. You see? So that's what I'm saying. This whole Great Awakening, it's so far away from people's realm of like, and what I'm just saying is really hard to maybe accept for some people, but it's at the most lowest of levels. And there's so many levels above that. Yeah. So I'm saying the next 20 years, we're going to be around 20 more years. But the interim, I said, there's going to be a weeding out of hundreds of millions of people, or maybe billions, in a process. So that's why if we have a great awakening and we help each other, we can avoid that. So if anyone can sort of grasp what I'm saying, I don't mean to insult anybody, but try to look at a bigger picture. And this plagiarism thing that I complain about so much actually is communist. It comes from atheism. It comes from not believing in God. If any conservative Christian is plagiarizing, which most of them have been doing, It's because deep down in their heart, they don't believe in God. If they did, they would never do that. You see, if you believed in God in the past, 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, every person always believed that God was watching every minute. Not only were they afraid to do something bad, they were afraid of bad thoughts. You know why? Because they knew God was even paying attention to thoughts. So if they had a bad thought, they're like, oh, I shouldn't have thought that. You see? But now I hear everybody using the word holy and the word, I don't want to say it, but to God, that's blasphemy. All the Christians are saying holy this, and they're tweeting about it. That is blasphemy for his standard. So when he looks at people doing that, he looks at you as communist, looks at you as, I don't want to say it, but the same thing you're putting out when you're saying that.
Sure. Now, how do you explain the tribes in the Amazon and places like this who have zero concept of religion or Jesus or any type of savior? But I do know they understand that there is a higher power, but they don't have any concept of this. So that kind of it almost further adds to your point.
They were yes and no, because they were destroyed by prehistoric civilization. I'm not discounting Jesus at all.
Yeah,
Jesus
I know that.
is a figure, and there is a Trinity with it, and he did come to bear the sins of man. He did do that. He died on the cross, and he bare the sins of everyone living at that time. And he's a great. What I'm saying has nothing to do with Jesus. What I'm saying is that with the perspective of, because what did Jesus say to the prostitute? Sin no more. Doesn't mean, okay, you repented and you believe in me, and then every Sunday you go and you pray, and then every other day you do all these things. No. So for those people in the Amazon, primitive. So that's the enlightenment has to do not just with believing. It has to do with open up your brain, your inner channels in your body. Once you do that, you can see things in different ways. Okay. So you become almost like a supercomputer. So that has to do with enlightenment. These people in the Amazon. So here's the thing: why did the Indians get extincted? Because that was also a plan. I don't want to get too deep because it'll put a lot of things out there like this is really hard to believe. But people think that God allows things to happen. You see that evil runs the world, right? But it's also allowed by God because he's in control. You think God is not in control of the demonic forces? Why would he not be God? That's created because of tests. It's also created because of destiny and free will. If people through free will, they sin, they do bad things happen throughout the world. It becomes a chain of reaction. Thus, there's a notion of free will. So when the American Indians, what were they doing? They were raping each other's tribes. They were killing, and they would pray to spirits. You see, so when you pray to spirits, you just connect to the low-level spirits, not the Savior, not God. So, and then if he has a plan for a culture, and Christianity is reduced, and then it comes into the Americas, and it's going to be a timeline where George Washington comes in, and all these couple hundred years, then the age of technology, and it comes to today, and what's going to happen next. All this is a design. Thus, you can't have these American Indians running around in shorts, killing each other, raping each other's village, and having these like animal like clothes on, because that's not in the image of God. That's not. You can't have an enlightenment when you have that. That's why there's a certain structure. If you look at before socialism and communism came in, 1940s, everybody wore suits. And there wasn't this all this pornography, wasn't these things you see today. That was all a program by communism. So I'm being too critical here. What I'm trying to say is, in different dimensions, it's very, very holy. And maybe in the realms of the heavens, they're not going to be wearing suits. By the way, I'm not saying you're good because you wear a suit. What I'm trying to say is these American Indians that they were before, or these tribes that you're talking about, they're from a civilization that was destroyed, the remnants of it. Even the Mayans, why were they destroyed? Because they became so decadent and they were sacrificing children. They were eating things alive. Then you were destroyed. And then why is there all around the world relics of half humans and half animals or aliens? Right now, they're mixing humans with chimerias, humans with pigs. They're doing that in North America, in Europe, in parts of North America since 2016, and in China. When you do this, you're lowering the standard of humanity to animals. What happens when you do this? You get extincted. The higher realms see everyone. Okay, they're not only acting like animals, they're mixing themselves with animals. Then on Google, they have porn of bestiality. They no longer meet the standard of humans that can ascend, that can have a platform to reach enlightenment, awakening, meaning this whole journey of life, to be able to be born here with the closed off memory, but your spirit's still intact, to have these experiences of suffering, of happiness, and enrich yourself through a journey. And through free will, not program like Elon Musk was to download to you, but through free will, you reach enlightenment. So, but if everyone's acting like animals, then there's going to be no great awakening, complete extinction. So, but people don't believe this. They don't believe that there's millions of eyes watching everyone. If there's an AI with a facial recognition that watches you every step you do in China, and even the apps listen to you all the time, the CIA and NSA listens to you, why not ascended beings or God be able to listen to everybody, watch everyone and simultaneously, and even your thoughts and what you're going to do next? Thus, and not show themselves to you, because there's a veil. If you see everything, then you believe, then you want to attain enlightenment, and there's no enlightenment, there's no awakening. That's what I'm saying. This period of time is so important, that if people can have that wish. What is this enlightenment really about? What is this awakening? What is salvation about? It's not just about that I believe in Christ. Maybe I have to act a certain way and attain something. Then, or any religion you may have, right? So anyway, I said a lot. I wasn't expecting to even go past the hour, and I did. And sorry, it's probably half the thing was just like this, but maybe it'll go to the channels, and you guys are very accepting of it. So I got no more to say. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter, Cyrus A Parsa 1, and it'll just be mostly geopolitics, none of this metaphysical stuff or Jedi stuff. And on IG, it's the same. And if you want to get this book, you're welcome to get it on Amazon. And yeah, thank you for having me on your show.
Well, yeah, thank you.
No, it's been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
so
you.
much.
Honestly, it's been really intriguing. And yeah, you might have felt like you were pushing buttons out there and triggering people, but I think it's fantastic. That's part of the journey to truth, what we always talk about. You have to explore everything. You have to explore. You have to be able to get yourself to a point where you can actually look at it from all angles and then come to your own conclusion. So this is exactly what we're trying to do. And honestly, a lot of what you said resonated with me. And a lot of people won't agree with that, I'm sure. I don't care what they think. Actually,
don't consider what I said an apple. Consider.
Yeah.
So don't eat the apple, but you can have an orange.
Yeah.
There you go.
You get what I'm saying, right? Adam and Eve.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
No, it was really, really great stuff. And there was so much more we could have talked about, but we'll save that for another time.
Be happy to. I talked too much this time. Hopefully you guys can engage more next time.
No, it was great information.
No, it was great.
It was great and needed to be said. And you were in that flow state, so just let it go. I think it's going to come across well. And if people aren't ready to hear it, they're not. But hey, whatever.
Aaron, Tyler, thank you very much. So your show is called Journey to Truth, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Correct.
I liked it. I liked the actual emblem you guys made for the show. A lot of work went into it, and even the music behind it. And there is like a serenity behind your show. So maybe in the future it'll be something big. We never know. So
thank you
so much.
And thank you earlier for those compliments earlier that you were saying about our show. That really means a lot. That's the type of stuff we like to hear. It really keeps us going.
Not just yours, but everyone has a different feeling. Red Pill is geopolitics, and that guy is really clever, really smart. Yeah. Clever in a good way. I don't mean that. He's really nice and smart. And then there's X22, and he's different. He's completely geopolitics. And then there's SGT. And there's Dr. Light too. I was just on that show. I raised a lot of feathers. Some people got really angry at me because I was saying the same stuff I'm saying here, but in a different way. And but they were speaking truth, and let them hear it, because if the Q people are like cabal exposing this, well, why not take some yourself in a nice way? Because I don't mean it in the bad way. I generally am saying it in goodwill. I'm not saying it in negative will. It's completely in goodwill.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel that too. I feel that too. And everybody, all these content creators, everybody who has these channels, they all play their part. They all have their own piece of the puzzle, so it's going to be different every time. Yeah. So thanks for coming on, man. This has been great. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for tuning in once again. Please make sure you like, subscribe. We have t-shirts for sale. You can donate via PayPal. Purchase an Omnia patch for your phone. It really helps with the EMF frequencies coming in. It's just a lot. There's a lot of things going on right now, and I had totally just lost my train of thought right there. But anyway, please, any support you have, any support you can provide helps us out, and thank you, because we wouldn't be here without you. And until next time, we'll see you later.